Raise your hand if you want to reduce cancellations at your company. Raise your hand if you want to expand customers at your company. Raise your hand if you want to decrease adoption time at your company. All right, this is good because I'm about to teach you how to do all three of these at once through what I call customer-centric onboarding. And I know we already had some talks about customer centricity earlier, so this is going to just add right on to that. My name is Clay Telfer, and I have spent the last 12 years building, scaling, and leading customer success and customer experience functions at hyper-growth SaaS startups, and who cares? What matters here is not me. What matters is not your company. What matters is whether the next 20 minutes are going to make you more successful. So, let's talk about what you do care about. These are some of the results I have seen with these strategies I'm about to teach you. 36% decrease in adoption time at Tiger Lead Solutions. 25% churn reductions in less than 6 months at Bambi HR. 11x customer expansions at TutorMe. Again, these are just some of the results I have seen with these strategies. Raise your hand if you'd like to do any one of these things at your current company.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, hell yeah, let's do it. So this will be pretty simple. I'm going to go over the principles of customer-centric onboarding. Then I'm going to give you instructions for how to implement this when you go back to your company. And then I'm going to walk through how I implemented it at one of my companies and make sure you know everything you need to implement this for yourself. We won't have time for questions, but if you find me later or message me on LinkedIn, I will answer any question, no matter how big or small. Lastly, as we go, the examples I'm using are from B2B companies where a CSM is doing at least some of the onboarding. I have also fully automated this. So even if you're B2C, full automation, all of this will apply to you also. Sarah asked me to be dramatic when I'm done with the page, so. Yeah, there's going to be like 9 more of those, so get used to it. Here's the core of customer-centric onboarding, and if you remember only one thing from my talk, make sure it's this. Onboarding should focus on what makes your client successful. Now you're thinking, well, that's really basic, right? But most companies' onboarding is focused on how to use their product, and that is not the same thing as how to be successful. And the key word here is focus, because probably you have to include some amount of technical training on how to use your product, but your priority has to be how to make your clients successful. So, for example, when I got hired at TutorMe, we provided online tutoring for universities and school districts. And when I got there, they'd had one CSM who'd been trying to do everything all by herself for like a year and a half. I'm sure none of you can relate. It's an unheard of situation. So my first week there, I said, hey, what's the one thing, if you see a customer doing it, you know they're going to be successful with us? And she said, oh, that's easy. It's when they get the teachers to keep recommending us to the students. Not just like, oh, don't forget about TutorMe, but saying, hey, here's a specific way that TutorMe could help you with a problem you're having. And I said, great, that's all it takes? That's all it takes. I said, great. Where do we teach them that in the onboarding? The answer was, we didn't. We might mention it in passing, but even then we wouldn't teach them how to do it. Now, I want you to think for a second about how crazy that is. There's only one thing our customers have to do to guarantee success, and we didn't even tell them what it was. But the thing is, this isn't just about TutorMe. The same thing is true of every company I've ever worked for, every company I've ever consulted for, every company where somebody in the Elevate Slack or Mercer's Discord has said, hey, somebody take a look at my onboarding process. Every single one of them was throwing away the most critical part of their onboarding. Now here's the second piece of customer-centric onboarding. Get the customer to define what success looks like for them. Hopefully, some of you are doing this, but all of you need to be doing this. And this is how we got a 25% churn reduction in less than 6 months at Bambi HR. And it also lets you just about guarantee renewal, and it makes those renewal conversations so easy. So you know how everybody's always like, oh, how do we begin a renewal conversation without feeling too salesy? This is how. At the beginning of your final onboarding call, you're going to say this to your client. Vicky, I want to make sure you are so successful that when your contract is up a year from now, you can't wait to renew it. What do you need to see to make that happen? Not what do I want, not what does my company want, not what does my CEO think success looks like. What do you need to see to be thrilled to renew? Now, you're going to write down the answers, and now, when you get on the phone with the client, you don't have to ask them if they're successful. You're going to get on the phone with the client, and you will tell them how successful they are just by looking at how they're progressing towards those goals. It gets funnier every time, I hope. We're going to come back to more about this later because it's such a critical piece of that churn reduction. But before we get to how you can implement this, I'll give you one more thing I want you to remember. People want more training on products that deliver value. People avoid training on products that aren't delivering value. And this is really important because if you're going to make these changes, and I hope you do, you will probably have to cut some amount of the technical training that you're currently doing in onboarding. Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but right about now, at least one person in this room is thinking, oh, that won't work for us because, see, our customers never show up to trainings or meetings after they go live. So we have to do it during the onboarding, when we can force them to show up. This is like saying, all our customers, they think our product quality is real low. We've got slashed prices even further. You're just making the problem worse. Think about it this way. A client launches and you've given them all the technical training. They know all the power user advanced crap you've got in your system. They can do it. They have no success training. A month later, they're supposed to meet with their CSM and they have seen zero progress towards those goals. Do you think that customer is going to prioritize showing up to your meeting? Do you think you deserve that customer's time? No, you have failed them already. And even if they do show up, now you've got this uphill battle. Now you're going to spend the whole meeting trying to change their perception of your product while they tell you that you're a bunch of thieves who ripped them off. And no, that hasn't happened to anybody here before, right? No? Yeah. And just crazy thing that's probably only happens to me. Now, take a client who's already seeing major progress towards those goals. They don't even have to be hitting those goals yet. They just have to see that they are on the path to those goals. That person cannot wait to show up to that success call. That person will be emailing asking if you can move it up and do it sooner. This is how we got the 36% decrease in adoption time at TigerLead, because once clients started seeing more success in their first few weeks, suddenly their top priority was getting all of their agents to be using our system ASAP. So these two changes are the only changes you need to make, and I'll bring back the results slide here. 36% decrease in adoption time, 25% churn reduction in 6 months, 11x customer expansion. All of this came from just those two changes. So if you want to do this for your own onboarding process, I'm going to give you a simple 5-step process that you can run through. First, you're going to identify the 3 most critical elements of success with your product. Might be 1, might be 2. If you think it's more than 3, you're wrong. Keep studying. Second, you're going to build a new process from scratch. Everyone repeat, from scratch. Centered around making sure every client does these things from day 1. On your final onboarding call, at the start, you're going to ask the client what success looks like for them. You're also going to schedule your first success call and emphasize you're going to provide more strategies, any more training that you might still need to provide on advanced features, you can do it there. And fifth, you're going to reboot your unsuccessful customers. I know I get a lot of questions about that. I'm going to come back and talk about the reboot in a minute. So, why build from scratch? Because what you have right now is almost certainly built to teach features. You cannot repurpose that framework. However much you think, it is not the same at all. You need to build something from the ground up that is focused on making sure every client knows and is going to do those three most critical elements of success. It's a really great way to emphasize a point, yeah. So, if you're not sure how to get to that question about how the client will define success, here's what you do. You got your small talk. You're going to ask them first, make sure they don't have something pressing on their mind where they're not even going to hear what you're saying until they ask their question about billing or whatever. And then you say, I want to make sure you are so successful you can't wait to renew. What do you need to see to make that happen? I promise you this. Make that the first 3 lines of your final onboarding call script, and you are already ahead of your competition. Guaranteed. Going back to the reboot. So once you've got all this in place, I want you to look at which customers aren't currently successful. Hopefully you can handle all of them. If you can't, you might have to triage for the most important ones that aren't successful. And I want you to onboard them again. And this is how we got those 11x expansions at TutorMe. And when I started, we had a bunch of these customers who had joined 6 months ago, and they were seeing no success. A couple of them hadn't even logged in for 4 months. And all of these customers had signed up with a small piece of their business to try us out for a year. But right now, we weren't even going to renew any of these people, much less expand their business, right? Because they're not getting anything we promised them. So after I had this new onboarding in place, I reached out to them and I said, hey, I'd love to meet with you and go over, I think I can turn this around and get you really seeing success. And a bunch of them said no. And we lost all those customers when their contracts were up because you only get the one chance to make a good impression. The ones that said yes, I ran them through our new onboarding process, taught them how to be successful. By 3 months later, every single one of them had proactively renewed their contract early and expanded to give us their full business. We took them from 6 months of nothing to asking us. I got calls saying, hey, do we have to wait until the contract expires, or can I re-up it now and add the rest of my school district? So that's how you implement this. And to make sure you guys know how to do this, I'm going to walk through using my time at Tiger Lead Solutions as an example. So Tiger Lead, we provided leads and a CRM to real estate agents, which in 2011 was a major change from the inbound lead models they were used to. So we looked at our most successful and our failed customers. We looked at how they were using our platform. We did interviews with them to figure out what are they doing outside of our platform, and we eventually boiled it down to 3 critical elements of success. Every lead needs 10 touches within their first 2 weeks. Someone needs to check every day. They need to make sure the agents are doing their jobs. And some of these touches need to be via texting. And I know, I look at this is comically basic right now. Remember, this is 2011. Point number 3 was heresy to some folks. They were no, nobody wants a text. So our new customer-centric onboarding is built around ensuring that the clients do these 3 things. And that doesn't mean we just tell them about it. We hit these points multiple times. We give them sample cadences that outline, here's when you will reach out to your leads. Here's what channel this touch will be. We gave them flyers they could print out and tape to people's desks to teach them, this is the new way we run our business. We don't just say, do these 3 things and drop it. We make sure that when they launch, not only do they know how to do this, but they have a plan, a written plan for how they're going to execute on this. And then during the onboarding, we ask them the question, what do they need to see to be so successful they can't wait to renew? So let's say they tell us, if you guys could deliver 10 multi-million-dollar leads per month, and I'm showing homes to 15 of your leads per month, and my agents were all logging in 5 times a week. Great. Now, I'm going to skip ahead to that first success call because this is about onboarding, but really the customer-centric strategy runs through their entire life cycle. So now, when I get on that first success call, that call you make where you're like, hey, Vicky, just checking in. Hope everything's good. How are you feeling? Please say you love us. I have no idea. You will never have to make that call again. Now, when I get on that success call, and let's say I've got those goals. Excuse me. Now I'm going to get on that success call. I'm going to say, okay, Vicki, I looked over your performance, and we have given you 14 multi-million-dollar leads your first month, so we're doing great there. Now, you've only shown homes to 12 leads this month, but since you're still ramping up, that's pretty normal. I'm very confident it's going to be 15 next month. 70% of your agents are logging in 5 days a week, so that's good. 20% of them are only logging in once a week. So on this call, I'll give you some strategies for how we can turn that around. All in all, it looks to me like we are doing great and we are well on track to success. Does it feel that way to you? And this question is really important because this is how we calibrate. And sometimes you'll have this call and they'll say, no, I hate it. It sucks. And then hey, these aren't the right goals, right? Then you can have that conversation and make sure that you get the right goals in place.
Last one. Please.
And that's it. You don't need fancy new software. You don't need to spend any money. No budget, no problem. If you have a simple onboarding process and you already know the 3 things that they need to do to be successful, you could have your first draft of this in 2 hours. And that's how we got 36% decrease in adoption time. That's how we got 25% churn reduction in 6 months. That's how we got 11x customer expansions. Onboarding should focus on what makes your customers successful. Get your customers to define what success looks like for them. Again, you can find me on LinkedIn. Send me any questions you have. I'll make sure to answer them. The only other Clay Telfer on LinkedIn is a cat. Now, admittedly, he is also a redhead, but my hair is much longer and curlier, so it should be very easy to find me. And I will answer any questions you've got. Let's get out there and make some clients successful.